Hi, this is Tom Shanahan of SpiritualAdrenaline.com. I'm here today in Midtown Manhattan with Charles Weth at his studio for Divine Spark Healing and Coaching. Charles, thank you so much for joining me today.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
You know, I've known you a long time, and I know that you've starred in some Broadway shows. You've been the jockey billboard person up in Times Square in your underwear, and on paper and on the surface, you've had so much success. But for a period of your life, you were in active addiction like many other people, and you hit your bottom and eventually found the light and came out of that. But I think it would be real interesting to share what it was like for you in active addiction, how you got there, and then how you got yourself back out of that.
Well, I didn't have much of a foundation in terms of having any tools to deal with success or life's challenges as a kid. So whether it's relationships or finance or career, anything that you put on top of a faulty foundation, you're not going to be able to support. And so it was my experience that, I finally got to a point in my life where it all fell apart. Kind of just a few years after 9/11. 9/11 happened, I had no tools at all. My only tool was to get completely wasted. And so I found my way into recovery, and it was hard. I almost didn't make it. But once I finally tapped into the support that was available to me, and I was able to learn how to like myself,
Right.
and then eventually learn how to love myself and forgive myself, make amends to others, and really believe that I could have a life that was different than what I had before, I really began to tap into many other resources that were available to me, even outside of normal recovery that we know.
You know, and you also had, at your bottom, you were in a coma, correct?
Yeah, I was.
And you were in a hospital. Can you tell us about what it was like to restore not only your mental health, but also your physical health, the process that you undertook?
When I was in the hospital, that was at the end of a weekend binge. It was 14 years ago. And yeah, I ended up in a coma. And when I was in the hospital
How long were you in the coma?
A couple hours from what I was told. And they had to call my parents and say, we don't know if Charles is going to make it. He hasn't regained consciousness yet. They revived me and they took me up to my hospital bed. And while I was there, I had an incredible spiritual experience. And I heard a voice resounding inside of my head saying, this is not who I created you to be. This is not who I created you to be, over and over again. And I was incredibly exhilarated and yet frightened, because here I was, almost 40 years old, and it was clear to me I didn't know who I was at all. So I went back to the people that had already tried to help me in recovery, told them what happened, and they gently guided me back to a place where I could restore my physical well-being, my mental, and eventually my spiritual well-being.
Well, great. This is going to be part one of a two-part segment on your experience, strength, and hope. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, we're here in Charles's studio for Divine Spark Healing and Coaching here in Midtown Manhattan. And if you're interested in what Charles is doing these days, you can check out his website at www.divinesparkhealing.com. And please join us for part two, .net, excuse me. And please join us for part two of this two-part interview. Charles, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.